we're talking about self-management. And look, I had a guy say to me in a training a couple of months ago, we were talking about some conversational intelligence templates on how to deal with his coworkers on his team. And he looked at me and he raised his hand in a very frustrated message. He said, so let me get this straight. I need to tiptoe around everybody so I make sure I say the right thing and do the right thing. And that was his reaction. And that in itself, in a nutshell, is what the problem is. When leadership views emotional intelligence, it feels daunting. It feels like I got to do extra work to be careful of what I say or how I act and how I do things. But that's what you should be doing anyway. You know, if you care about your team, if you care about the company you work for, if you care about everybody around you being successful, that shouldn't feel like a burden. It should feel like, great, that's what's going to create the best culture and the most engagement here at my company. So it is daunting and it can be exhausting. And what's really tough is in a highly pressurized environment, you're not going to be able to succeed at it 100% of the time, but that doesn't mean you failed. And one of the things I talk about in regards to self-management and self-assessment is how do you assess yourself? What are your own standards of performance? So for instance, if you have 10 appointments in the next 2 weeks and you're able to manage your emotions effectively in 8 of the 10, are you happy? Do you feel like that's pretty good? Or do you feel like, damn, I still suck because I didn't do it on 2 of them? And that inner voice of how we manage ourselves and our standards and expectations and confidence is huge. Because in that moment, the way I look at it is the number 8's meaningful if the 2 weeks before it you only did 5. If the 2 weeks before you did 10 and now you're down to 8, that's a concern. But by managing your success rates, not just deals you close, not just how many things are in your pipeline, how many opportunities are in your pipeline, but it's your inner success. And I think if you're guessing and you're not really keeping track and you don't have a process for self-management, that is really a kryptonite to your resiliency and competency. So look, here are the aspects of self-management. I'm going to give you them at a high level and then I'll quickly go through them. One is self-doubt. One is self-blame. One is irrationality. One is overconfident. And one is fear. Okay? So when it comes to self-doubt, that was I was just speaking of. Look, the one thing I take a lot of pride in is I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not yet good at. Now, whether I aspire to become good in the areas I need to improve, that remains to be seen. Maybe I will in some, maybe I won't in others. But self-doubt is really painful. We are so influenced by the people around us, the feedback we get, the reactions we get. Now we add self-doubt into the mix of what we think of ourselves. So if you lack the self-doubt, if you have the self-doubt, and you're not confident, then you probably don't have a process. You probably don't have a template that you can review to know how to properly assess your success.